And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise, and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is outside the temple, leave out and don't measure. It is given to the Gentiles to persecute the holy city for 42 months or 1,260 years. Each wall section measured 10 cubits high and 1.5 cubits wide. There are 20 sections on the north side and 20 sections on the south side. The east side or front had 8 sections, and the west side or rear had 8 sections each. The total sections for the north and south sides equal 40. Multiply that by 15 square cubits and you arrive at 600. The total sections for the east and west sides equal 16. Multiply that by 15 square cubits and you arrive at 240. Multiply 600 by 240 and you get 144,000. God's salvation process with humans will be finished when he obtains this number. The winds of strife will be let loose. War on earth will break out. The 144,000 faithful will be sealed in their foreheads, representing their minds and hearts eternally secured for heaven. You are those wall sections. 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 5 says, You are the lively stones that built up a spiritual house, acceptable to God by Jesus Christ. This solemn work is to be done upon the earth. Look and see how stands your measurement of character as compared with God's standard of righteousness, his holy law. The worshipers are to pass under the measuring line of God. Who will bear the test? Christ says, I know thy works. Nothing is hid from him. How many are purifying their souls by obeying the truth? How many are now in this time wholly on the Lord's side? How many are seeking to be a blessing to those around them? Many need help, kind words, thoughtful attentions, and if you pray with such, you may be a blessing to them. Spare no pain, make every effort to enter in at the straight gate, for many will try to enter and not be able. Where is this straight gate? It is not to be confused with the gate to the outer court. Both gates are important, but most Christians stop after entering this first gate. They accept Christ's sacrifice, but mostly ignore the rest of the salvation process. Many cannot find this gate because it goes against our selfish and corrupt natures. It is not the easy, smooth way. While it is true that in antiquity, only the priests were able to enter the temple, it is also true that today, all God's chosen have become priests, a holy nation, a peculiar people. The salvation process for an individual plays out on the same track as history. You are justified when you accept Christ, then you are sanctified when you participate in the inner man's renewal process, then if faithful, you can be forgiven and saved. So we need to be certain if we are saved. Those that have not been tricked into believing Satan's cleverly crafted lies that resemble truth, but instead actually followed Christ to where he is right now, will be the first redeemed from the earth. Take the angel's advice. Christ is not here in the outer court, he is risen. He sits at the right hand of his Father. He supplied his blood in the outer court, but now is applying it to everyone who will stop sinning. The next item to measure is the altar, but the angel did not specify which one, so we will measure both. The altar of incense and the altar of burnt offerings. The altar of incense measured 1 cubit long, 1 cubit deep, and 2 cubits high at its base. The horns or upper part had the same exact measurements. The total number of cubits is 24. This is the number of elders shown to be worshiping the Lamb of God, the Creator of all things. Those that profess to know and love God, even their worship is measured. What is the quality and quantity of your worship? The altar of burnt offerings or brazen altar was 5 cubits long and 5 cubits deep and had 3 cubits for its height. 5 cubits by 3 cubits times all 4 sides equals 60 square cubits. When you make a promise to God, it will be evaluated. In ancient times, men 20 years old to 60 paid 50 shekels of silver for this. 50 is the number of loops in the ceiling curtain. They were blue in color, which represents obedience. It can be no wonder that both the Old and New Testaments clearly show obedience as required by God. Jesus said, "If you love me, obey my commands." He asked, "Why do you call me Lord, and don't do the things that I say?" Angels of God are sent to measure the temple and the worshippers therein. The Lord looks with sadness upon those who are serving their idols, with no care for the souls perishing in darkness and error. He cannot bless the church who feels it no part of their duty to be laborers together with God. What a terrible thing it is to exclude Christ from his own temple. What a loss to the church. The worshippers are to pass under the measuring line of God. Who will bear the test? Christ says, "I know thy works." Nothing is hid from him. How many are purifying their souls by obeying the truth? How many are now in this time wholly on the Lord's side? How many are seeking to be a blessing to those around them? Many need help, kind words, thoughtful attentions, and if you pray with such, you may be a blessing to them. Who knows the power of your anger, considering your fear and wrath? So show us how to count our days, that we may apply our motives to wisdom. And when will you return and change your mind about us? God considers those whose lives are not full of leaves, but of fruit. Those that do their part in winning souls for him are deemed wise. From a collective perspective, God's true church wins souls for him. How many days have they been in existence? What is the number of their days? God's final church grew out of a people that followed him into the sanctuary. They thought that Jesus would return in 1844 because they confused the earth with the sanctuary as meaning the same thing. This error cleansed all the followers that had corrupt motives and produced a few humble faithful that would be the founders of God's final church. If you multiply 6,000, representing the total number of years allotted the earth, by the number of days in each year, that would be 365, you get 2,190,000 days. We may not know the exact age of the earth, but we do know as of October 2023, it will be 179 years since October of 1844. Multiply 179 years by 365 days and you get 65,335 days. Divide 2,190,000 days by 65,335 days, you get 33.5 days. Christ's ministry while here on earth lasted 33.5 years. Might this be a coincidence? In Pilate's judgment hall, church leaders were hell-bent on crucifying Christ. Christ is the truth. Today more than ever, many church leaders and members are hell-bent on suppressing or eliminating the truth. Instead of honoring the truth, church leaders and members chose Barabbas. This man claimed to be the Messiah. Recently, a man here in the States claimed to be the chosen one, or Messiah. Barabbas said he would establish a different order of things, to set the world right. Americans were told that he would make America great again. Barabbas claimed whatever he could obtain by theft and robbery was his own. We were told that when you are a star, they let you do it, and that items that belong to the government are his. Barabbas had gained a following among the people, and had excited sedition against the Roman government. On January 6, 2021, he encouraged sedition against the United States government. Under cover of religious enthusiasm, he was a hardened and desperate villain, bent on rebellion and cruelty. This too applies for both characters. These infamous tragedies prove a crucifixion of the truth is coming, but they are not the only ones. Maybe God will give us more time, maybe He won't. It is not for us to say. This presentation is for prayerful study and consideration. Percentage-wise, how many days of your life have you devoted to winning souls? How many towards pleasure-seeking and mammon-getting? Whether by God's grace He gives us many more days or not, we need to apply our hearts to winning souls, starting with our own. May God bless you.